From the battlefield to the home front, our military is ripe with incredible stories, and we want to tell them to you. Welcome to the Stand Guard Podcast, a show dedicated to uncovering the remarkable stories of our service members and our military history that often goes untold. I'm your host, Tim Coster, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Major Dave Pitlick. Let's see what we can dig up today. It's a new year and we've got a new show. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to our first episode. This project has been in the works for a while now, and I'm really excited to share with you the stories we've got lined up for you this season. It's fitting that we've started this new show in the new year because it's kind of turned into a New Year's resolution for us to get this thing off the ground. So I think there's really no better way to kick things off than by talking about New Year's resolutions. To do this, we've got Sergeant First Class Silas Holden on the phone. Sergeant Holden is a master fitness instructor and a resiliency trainer. He's written several articles for our Connecticut Guardian newspaper about this very subject. Sergeant Holden, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate that. I recently read an article talking about the top 5 New Year's resolutions for the year of 2023. Somebody did a poll, and it's kind of exactly what you would imagine. It's the number one was, lose more weight, go to the gym. Second was eat healthier. Third was, finance, get in front of your finances. And then like the fourth or fifth, whichever one it was talking about being able to see more friends or anything, right? And so I'm just curious, what kind of tips and tricks do you have for people who maybe in regards to, let's start with fitness, who are interested in, going to the gym, getting more fit, and actually keeping with those goals?
Number one thing I think is you have to make it about you. Do not make it about anybody else or doing it for anybody else. It has to become personal. You have to put your mind to it fully, dedicate yourself, and then dedicate time every day on a routine that you stick to. I think those are the biggest points for sticking with a resolution. No matter what time of the year it is, if in July you choose to change your routine, it has to be that mindset. And I heard a great thing. I've been reading a lot of Navy SEAL books lately. And David Goggins said in one of his books, he said, throw motivation out. Motivation is an up and down roller coaster in life. He goes, you have to have discipline. It takes absolute discipline and not motivation. Motivation will eventually leave you.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I was actually listening to a podcast recently too about this subject, and I think it was the Harvard Business Review, and they were talking about how, when we come up with resolutions, they're never small things, right? It's never like I'm gonna make a resolution to go get milk this afternoon at the store. It's always the big things. It's life-changing things. It's losing weight, eating healthier, being better with your money, et cetera, et cetera. And these big things, the reason we come up with these resolutions is because, they're things that will change our life, hopefully for the better. And one of the biggest things one of the reasons they were saying that people fail with these things is because these large investments, these large resolutions are often, because we hold them so close to our heart, so near and dear to us, that we're afraid of failure, right? And so, and one of the reasons we don't start them is because we're afraid to fail, which is just, self-replicating in itself, because not doing it is also failing, right?
Absolutely.
But yeah, so do you have any stories of, successes that you've seen over the years as a master fitness trainer with people who, may have come to you wanting to do better with fitness, do better with nutrition, anything like that? And, what was their ride like?
On our deployment, I did see some other soldiers working with a soldier who had been failing PT test and height weight probably for, I would say, 3 or 4 years at least, and could never get ahead of the power curve. And it was funny on deployment, the constant being there, being military, completely changed the circumstance. He was able to focus his mind. Other people worked with him, and he ended up being in the best shape he'd been in and passing both height weight and PT at the end of the deployment. So I think what it is it comes down to dedicating that time, because a lot of weekenders, they don't put the time in when they're home just on weekend IDT duty. When it was a deployment, mindset, and atmosphere, he put all the time in he had. So I think it comes down to making the time every day and getting in the gym and doing the work.
Yeah, absolutely. I've gone through my own struggles, and I know that once I lose steam or I fall off a good track, a lot of times it's hard to get back on. So what advice would you have for somebody to get back on track and realize that just a single failure is not total failure?
My rule of thumb that I personally follow is never take more than 2 days off. So if you fail, you feel like you're failing, it's fine to miss a day, regroup. But that second day, get right back at it. Pick up where you left off. Because the rule of thumb is you start multiple days off from the gym and it becomes a habit again to not go to the gym.
Right. A body in motion stays in motion. It holds
Yes.
true for us as well.
Yep, absolutely. And I believe the scientific research, I don't have it here in front of me, but I think it's if you take 2 weeks off, you lose something like 15% of the gains you had made for however long you had been working out. It's something around there.
That's really depressing.
Yes. So the key is you miss one day, that's fine, but then suck it up and get right back to it.
Yeah, don't let it be two.
Yeah. Don't let it become the habit where you're not going to the gym again.
I think something that's really interesting too that I've heard a lot about with especially coming up with New Year's resolutions is like I said we make resolutions for really big things, right? So and though in order to accomplish really big things, we have to make really small steps, right? You're not going to be able to get the six pack overnight, as much as we all wish we could, right? You're not going to be able to become financially independent overnight. So it all takes a little bit of steps. And failure, I think, is part of that process along the way. Like you're going to fail, especially, you can't start cold turkey, January 1 and expect to be doing it every single day, doing it really well every single day from there on out. You're going to have some failures. And I think one of the important things too, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on these as well, is embrace the failure, know that it's going to happen, learn from it, and then kind of realize, why did I fail? What's going on in my life? What adjustments can I make? And what do I do next to not fail as bad or not fail again in the future?
Absolutely. I think using something in the military we use all the time, the after action review. I think it's a good thing for failure. What you do is when you have a failure in whatever plan you're going after, financial, gym, fitness, health, you have to step back from it, look in from the outside, what happened, and then do an after action review. What went bad? What went good? What can you use to get back in there and improve upon that time? So I think it's just coming up with that and using it. We use it in the military all the time, but use it in your personal life also. Find out where you're failing, why you failed, and then move forward from there and improve.
Yeah, absolutely. And along the same lines, another thing that we learn here in the military all the time are SMART goals, right?
Yes.
And setting those goals up, because a lot of times I think people come up with ideas for resolutions. They come up with, again, going back to the top five, the weight loss, the eating healthy, the financial stability and everything. It's really easy to say, I want to lose weight. But like, if you go out and you lose a pound, or you've technically lost weight, you've achieved your goal, if you will. If you want to eat healthier, if you eat healthy one day, you've technically eaten healthier. But then how do you keep those going? You need to come up with goals that I think are replicable and able to do over and over again, and you have like a timeliness to it.
Yeah, I think that's where a structured routine comes in every day. If you can build something that you can repeat, it becomes a habit. Whereas if one day you're in the gym at 4:30 in the morning, the next day you're in the gym at 2 p.m., it doesn't become consistent. My excuse myself has always been, I don't have time. That's why I've always fallen out of it. And now I've been in the gym, I want to say it's 8 months straight now. I've finally been in the gym running. I'm running the Hartford Marathon this year. I made a goal that by the age of 50, I would run a full marathon. So I'm going to do the Hartford this year at 47 years old. And I think what it is now I get up every morning at 4:30 and I work out. And I even do it on Saturdays. Sunday is my active recovery day where I sleep in a bit. But every morning, 4:30, I'm up working out. And it's now become a habit. That is what it takes.
That's awesome. So what's your motivation for doing that? Because that takes a lot of will, a lot of discipline, a lot of desire. So what's your reason for why?
I think one of the biggest ones is the mental health that it helps with. It will bring you out of depression. If you get in a low, you get the endorphins going from exercise and working out, and it makes your entire day better. I find working out at 4:30 in the morning, my day goes so much better when I work out. When I was not doing that, I would wake up and I would say, okay, what's first on my list? Now I know what's first on my list, and it just starts the stage going. The dominoes just start falling through the day, and it seems to work great, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, I mean, it's something you can control. It's like you said, the first thing you do in the morning, so you know that you already have that covered.
Yeah, it's the first thing you check off on your list, and it makes, hey, I started this day and I got it done.
Yeah, there was a speech I saw, I believe, by a Navy admiral. I can't remember who it was, and it's bothering me. But kind of going along the same lines, he talked about making your bed first thing in the
Yes, he
morning,
wrote a book about
right?
it. It's a book. Yep.
Yeah, there's Admiral McRaven, I believe.
That sounds right. But it goes along the same lines, right? I mean, you have a schedule, you set it, you do it, and you get those necessary things out of the way first, and then that way you're not, worrying about it at the end of the day. You're not, and then at the end of the day, even if you don't accomplish everything you want to do in a single day, at least you have that one thing, those two things, whatever it is that you've accomplished that make you feel like, okay, maybe I didn't get everything done, but I've still accomplished something.
Correct. Yep. And I think it's a whole mindset thing when you find that discipline to get up and do it. I find now that even if the alarm goes off and I don't want to get out of bed, I'm like, no, get up, work out, and your day will start better. If I lay there, I know that, oh, I'm just going to think of, this day's going to drag. How's it going to be? So you have to, sometimes you get in that mood and you have to drag yourself out of the bed and get down to the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you're also a big resilience guy, right? You're a resilience trainer. So how do those things kind of interconnect?
I think they tie in huge together. Resiliency, you're always talking about staying up, not so much staying upbeat, but being positive, hunt the good stuff. And when you build a routine, you're going to the gym, your mind is clear from working out, then when problems do jump in front of you, I think you're much more resilient and it's easier to find a solution to that problem. You're keeping yourself more sharp, is what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that in a lot of ways, resilience and confidence go together similarly to how fitness and confidence work together. So somebody that is taking care of their body is probably going to be more resilient, more capable to take on whatever their day throws at them.
Absolutely. Yep. I used to be, I'll admit it, in my 20s, I was probably one of the most negative people ever. I thought life was just out to get me and beat me down all it could. And now what it is, yeah, life is going to beat you down. That's what it does. Your day is going to have issues in it. But what you have to do is be stronger than those issues. Just take them one at a time. One thing I'm horrible at is multitasking. I'll admit that. When I was a readiness NCO, I didn't enjoy the job because I couldn't multitask well. And that job, you have to multitask. So it's going to get in your head and try to pull you down, but you can't let it. You have to stay ahead of it and solve the problems as they come and just be resilient. It's about bouncing back from adversity. That's exactly what it is.
I think one of the things that you really have to take into consideration too is that problems are going to arise, but you're not necessarily going to be able to fix them right then and there. Sometimes you just have to put everything on the back burner and just keep moving on. I I know there are some people who in my personal life who look at me and be like, "How are you so calm in this situation? There's stuff going on." And I know we have to deal with stuff in this job all the time too. And it's like there's nothing I can do about it right now. Like I just have to accept it. I have to move on. And then when the time comes and I have the resources and the ability to take care of the situation, then I'll take care of it. But unless it's, life, limb, or, something very serious that has to be taken care of right now, if I don't have the resources or the capability to take care of it now, then other things are going to take a priority.
Yep.
Right. Control the controllables. Because if you can't control it, why waste the resources on trying to fix that problem? My thoughts, at least.
And I think huge with the resiliency side of it is it's been proven humanity has a negativity bias. They want to focus on the negative more than focusing to make life positive. It's just the way we are. It's human nature. So I think that comes into play huge when you accomplish that first thing in the morning that you have on your list and you want to get it done. It starts the positivity going. Whereas if you don't accomplish it, you go right back to negative and okay, everything's going to beat me up today. And then you get in that mindset.
Well, I think you guys have convinced me that it's probably a good idea to start working out in the morning instead of the afternoon and, investing that time that I know that I have in myself instead of gambling and hoping that there's still going to be time left at the end of the day.
Yeah, you can look at it that way, but then there's other people who it fits in the afternoon good. So if that works for them, what I tell people when they ask me is whatever works for you, go with it. Find it, do your work to find it, and then go with it. Right now, it's funny. I've never been into powerlifting, anything like that. I've always been built for running. That's my fitness thing is just run, endurance, and go. And now I've gotten into band workouts where you're using bands, and I'm getting more gains from doing heavy band workouts than I was from lifting with just steel plates. And I'm like, how can that be? And I think what it is that suits me and I'm happy doing it. So I'm putting way more focus into it.
Yeah, so that kind of surprises me actually, because I wouldn't think that you would get that sort of results from bands. So where can somebody find resources on how to come up with a plan, how to do that effectively? Because I'm interested in it.
Everything is online. I mean, you can find resistance band workouts online. There's other MFTs in Connecticut. We've all worked to write programming. It's part of the course. When you take it, is you can come up with programs for people. So I would just reach out, talk to other people that are heavy into fitness, and just take it on. You'll learn it as you talk to people and as you do your research. I'm a big research guy. I love researching things. That way I learn it firsthand. A lot of times word of mouth, I just don't pick it all up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but are you ever one that you kind of use research to delay and to kind of put off actually doing? Because that's something that I do a lot.
I used to do that. I haven't done it probably in the past 8 months when I found a good program that I finally like. So, but yes, I used to do research and never take action.
This is all great. I think this is really good advice. It's really good everything. But we've talked about setting up a routine and kind of getting into a rhythm so that you know what to do, when to do it, and everything. I remember, I think it was in college, one of my professors told me that if you do something every single day on a routine for 30 days, you're more likely to stick to it long term. I guess I don't know what the science is behind it, but apparently 30 days is that special number where if you do it, then you'll more than likely stick to it. If you fail before then, you're more likely to give it up. But what are some ideas you guys have for kind of mentally getting into the right headspace to set a routine and actually stick to it?
That is a difficult question to answer because there's probably tons of answers out there that would work for different people. I know for me, The biggest thing for me is doing it for me. I can't do it for anybody else. It has to be for me. Okay, I'm going down to the gym every morning for myself, for my well-being. As soon as I realized that, I was able to make it a permanent part of my routine and stay way more focused mentally. And what running does for me, I play little games in my head. I don't listen to music when I'm running. I'll listen to music when I'm working out in the gym. But when I'm running, I like to get inside my head and I get talking to myself internally and motivating myself to push past the last record I set. And I play little games like that. And that's what mentally pushes me, is pushing myself to do better than I did last time.
That's interesting, that you say that. So, and this is maybe a little bit off topic, but I know, like, I'm the opposite of you, right? I am not built for running. I'm a slow runner. I have not been a good runner for a very, very long time. But obviously, with physical fitness tests in the military, like, you have to run, right? And one of the things that really helped me get into running more was there are apps out there that gamify exercise,
Yes.
right? So you're not just running for the sake of running. You're not just listening to music. The one that I particularly like is something where you will be listening to music, but then it will pop in with like a random zombie attack. And so then all of a sudden you have to run faster in order to get away from the zombies. And it just kind of adds like almost like a like a hit program, because you're running, you're doing sprints, and then you're slowing down, and then you're going sprinting again, and it adds just another level of to the exercise where it makes it fun. Because for me, just running for the sake of running is not something I find enjoyable. It's just something I do because I have to do it.
Fully
So
agree. And I saw that app. It's actually, I think it's called Zombie Run, and it's pretty good.
yeah.
Whoever created it, they probably used it to motivate themselves to run better.
I'd imagine they did, yeah. And it's just, it goes beyond that too, because if you are any sort of gamer, and there's a lot of apps like this, it's not just this one, but you can earn points, you can pick stuff up as you run along, and then you can build a base, and there's a whole aspect to it that's doesn't involve running that makes it just more interesting. So, yeah, I mean, and I'm sure there's other apps out there if that's something that people would be interested in, not just for not just gamifying running, but maybe gamifying other exercises as well, or even other resolutions that they might have, like financial or what have you. So then let's transition a little bit here. So we've talked about exercising, and exercising is obviously something that's very important. It was, I think, exercise and losing weight were the number one and number two resolutions this year. Number three was nutrition, right? And so nutrition is obviously a very important part of physical fitness as well. But in today's economy, eggs are like $47,000 for a dozen. It I think it's gonna be difficult for some people to really go out and get healthy food when they really should be. And healthy food has always been, I think, more expensive than your processed foods, and I think it's even worse now. Do you have any like advice or tips on how you can eat healthier? In this type of economy right now?
I don't know if the economy so much dictates it. I think probably the most important thing I read recently, and it really changed my mindset, because I've always had an issue. I've had a super high metabolism all my life. At 39 years old, it finally hit the wall and started to slow down like everybody said it would. So all the weight starts going on the midsection. You're like, oh no, here we go. So my biggest thing was I would always go for sugary treats. Someone brings donuts to work, I was eating 2 donuts a day. Someone brings in dessert or something, I was eating dessert. I read in one of the books I read recently, and it said, someone has donuts and they set them in front of you, say no, I don't want a donut. It's discipline. That's all it comes down to. And I think now that I have the mindset of hearing that, when I read it, now I hear it when I see something I should not be eating. And it comes down to discipline and personal choice. It Getting up at 4:30, working out in the gym feeds into my nutrition for the day, because after I feel so good from working out, I don't want to ruin that with a bunch of garbage. So I think
Right.
that helped me. But nutrition is really personal, and it takes a lot of willpower to correct your eating and keep it super clean.
Now, are you a big fan of meal prep? Because I know that you can save some money that way, buying things in bulk, prepping it maybe once or twice during the week. Has that ever been something that's been part of your routine?
I have tried to get into it and I have never succeeded. And what part of it, what it is for me is I love to overeat. So when I meal prep, I'll grab 2 meals at a time instead of just one. And I'll be like, oh, now I can eat 2 of these because it's already made, it's ready. So I think that throws me way off. So I don't go with meal prepping. And actually, it's funny because I've done a ton of research on fasting. Fasting is extremely healthy for the human body. A lot of people say, no, it's very unhealthy. It actually resets a lot of systems in the body. And it's funny because there's these certain people doing reading, and the body will actually, if you fast properly, the body will actually gain some muscle mass. It won't lose it when you're fasting, as long as you're taking on the right nutrition off of your fast periods. So now I'm fasting Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for 24 hours. That's what I do every week. And like I said, I'm finally seeing gains for the first time in muscle mass and my running ability. So I'm like, hey, it's working for me. I'm just going to stick with it and see how it goes. So I think, again, it's about doing research, doing the trial and error, and finding out what works best for you.
That's a really good point. And there's a book out there that I've been meaning to read, and I think it's really interesting on this topic because, I think again, going back to weight loss as one of those resolutions that a lot of people have every year, um, they go and they read about the latest diet, the latest fad diet, whatever it is, and they're like, "Oh, I'll try it," and then they get miserable with it because again, it's not something you can just do overnight. It's something you probably have to build into your routine. Maybe start out 2 or 3 days a week doing it, then build it up more and more. But there's this book out there called I'm spacing on the name, but it's basically like eating for your body type, right? So it's different types of diets based off of like your build and other aspects. Like, I have to read the book to really understand all the different aspects to it, but it's basically like it basically saying that not every diet fits every body type.
Correct.
And so going back to what you were saying is doing the research, finding out what works for me, what should work for my body type, and then trying from there and trial and error, like you said, and just seeing what works and then trying to stick with it and slowly building up from 1 2 days a week to then 3 4 and then 5 and 6 7.
Absolutely. And I think we've become so crazed in this across the globe with low carb. You can't eat carbs. They're not good for you. My biggest thing is if they're sugary, processed carbs, no, they're not good for you. They're garbage. Your body doesn't truly know what to do with them because they're so processed. But if it's a good carb like brown rice or something like that, it's going to fuel you if you want to work out and use that fuel. Otherwise, it's just going to sit in your body and become fat. That's what the human body does with it.
Yeah, and I would also argue to really do your due diligence to figure out whether or not the information you're getting is coming from a reliable source.
Correct.
I know there is a lot of stuff out there where people will, talk trash on food because it's like, oh, I was told this food is really good. Well, let's look at the ingredients and oh my gosh, this is terrible for you, even though they have no idea what the ingredient actually is. And that gets really dangerous. And I mean, not just with nutrition and food, but anything. Like you really need to be careful of where your information comes from.
Yeah. And I am not a certified nutritionist, so I mean, I can't talk of the science and all that behind it. But if you watch what people eat, like people that you're around every day, watch what they eat and then see how they act and how they function. It tells you a lot. That's part of the research, is look around, look at your surroundings, see how people are fueling themselves, and watch the ones that are off the walls, truly fit, losing weight. Those are probably the ones you want to follow.
Yeah, I can't argue with that logic. That makes perfect sense. So yeah, I mean, so tell me a little bit more about your personal story. Like, you said you're into running. You're now getting into the marathons. What has this road been like over however far back you want to go in your fitness and journey and everything else? Just tell us more about you and your journey.
I would say fitness wise, like I've said, I've been back and forth all my life. Um, I was a very small kid, could never gain weight. I think graduating high school, a lot of people are like, "What?" I was 113 pounds senior year when I graduated high school. That is small. Okay. Um, Basic training came out of basic training the best shape of my life. 2003, I graduated basic training. I was 145 and probably like 13% body fat. It's the best shape I've ever been in my life. Then I let that slide because you come home from training National Guard. You don't stick with it. You go back to now it's just one weekend a month. I think the best thing that ever happened was getting my AGR job. That way I feel I'm active duty. I need to take care of it all the time so that I can do my mission and do my job. It's part of the job. Running, I would say I got really into running. That probably wasn't until like 2010. And I don't know what sparked it. I think it was almost like maybe I was going through something, so I was a little bit down on myself, and running, it would just get out, I'd go run and I'd clear my mind. That's why I don't listen to music doing it, because it's very mentally healing for me, and I just talk to myself and get myself through things. The first half marathon I ever did was 2013, I believe. I set a personal goal of 2 hours, and I did it in an hour and 59 minutes. So I beat that goal by 1 minute. Um, since then, I've done 3 or 4 half marathons. Little over 2 hours is my average, just because I haven't been pushing myself. This year, I'm doing the full marathon, and my goal, I'm doing 2 half marathons. I'm doing Mystic, and I'm doing Surftown in Rhode Island. That's one of the best routes. If someone wants to run a half marathon, Surftown's probably the best route there is. And then in October, I'll do Hartford, and my goal is 4 hours. 4 hours flat, I want to do a full marathon in. If I can do that and train to meet that, I'll be very happy with this year.
So you want to hit 4 hours. Um, at this point in your life, what would hitting that 4 hour mark mean to you? And would you be discouraged if you were like 4 minutes or 4 hours and 5 minutes?
No, I've put my mindset that I'll be happy with anything under 4.5 hours, because that's a big accomplishment with a full marathon. Um, I would say what it'll tell me is I'm not even near my potential yet. If I meet that 4 hour or go under it, like like all the books I've been reading, a lot of people only achieve 40% of what the human body is possibly capable of during their lifetime. It's when you push past that 40% of achievement that you really start to see, wow, I can't even imagine what I can keep doing. So I think doing under 4 hours would give me that feeling like I haven't even started to find my true potential.
And I think it's really cool too that you're doing the 2 half marathons first. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where you can't just go and run a marathon, right? Like day one, you can't go run a
You
marathon,
can,
but
but you're
you,
probably going to be hurting afterwards.
right. But you set these small goals that you can slowly build your way up to your final goal, your final resolution of whatever it is. In your case, running a marathon. For someone else, maybe say they want to lose 100 pounds, right? You're not going to say I'm going to go lose 100 pounds. You say this first month I'm going to go lose 10 pounds, and then you try to hit that small goal. That same podcast I was listening to earlier, I thought they put it in a really interesting way where they said, everyone always says like shoot for the stars, right? Because, that's your big goal. But, if you don't make it to the stars, you kind of crash and burn, right? So you set those small goals, right? Let's not get to the stars. Let's get to low orbit first. Then, let's get into high orbit. Then let's go to the moon, and then let's go for the stars.
Right.
So I think setting those small goals, I think, is what it's really helpful in trying to reach these bigger goals. In my aspect, and I think that's really cool that you're doing that. You're kind of embodying that right now. You're going for that half marathon, the second half marathon, and then you're going for the full thing. And like you said, like if you don't hit that goal, that 4 hours, at least you've still run the marathon, and that's huge in itself.
Yep. And right now in the training plan, I have till October to do the full marathon. So they say to start 20 weeks out. So I'm way ahead of time for that. But right now I'm using it for the half marathons. And I didn't even realize I was doing last year I was averaging 5 to 10 miles a week is all. And last week I did 25 miles for the week. I'm like, so I've already doubled my mileage from last year. So it's just about getting it in there and being consistent. And then you'll see everything start to build. Because that truly pushed me last week. I said, I did 25 miles this week. Good time, felt great, no injuries. Let's keep this going and see where it's going.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we touched on this already, but one of the things I think is kind of critical to or crucial, especially when we're talking about setting goals and setting big goals, resolutions, is understanding that it's okay to fail, right? In some ways, because at least you're making those steps forward, and let's say we want to run a half marathon and you go out and you don't complete the half marathon, but you complete, a 10K, right? Maybe you failed in your goal, but you're still making progress than where you were today. So like, don't be afraid to fail, but fail in the right direction and learn from from your actions.
Absolutely. And I think the old saying I go by is success is built on a mountain of failures. It truly is. Because from every one you learn and you build up to success. And I think the biggest thing is don't quit. If you fail, don't quit. Get back in there, set a smaller goal to reach. If you didn't reach the first one, bring it back a little bit so you meet it. And then that mentality of meeting it will get you to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think that was a good conversation. I don't know about you, how you guys feel about it, but I thought it was pretty good.
I think it went well also, yes.
Yeah. Sergeant Holden, thank you for being our first guest in our, test bed, guinea pig. But we greatly appreciate you being here, giving us some of your time.
Appreciate it, sir.
And if there's anything else you want to talk about in the future, we'd be happy to have you as a guest again. Maybe we could do it in person next time.
Absolutely. Sounds good to me.
All right, Sergeant Holden, thank you so much for spending the time with us. We're gonna end that here. For everybody else who's listening or watching this, if you guys have an interesting story or know someone who does, let us know. You can email us at standguardpodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, we appreciate everybody and everything. Sergeant Holden, have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Stand Guard Podcast, a production of the Connecticut National Guard. Please make sure to like and follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts.